Probably should have cleaned up my desk a little bit before I started making this video. I weld anodized aluminum every day, and I've learned a lot, and I'm not saying that I do it the right way, but I think there's several ways to do it, and I think there's a lot of information that can be had from somebody who actually does it every day versus somebody who can just tell you how to do it. And a lot of the things that I've noticed is people are requesting from these reputable people how to weld anodized aluminum, how to do certain things with marine welding and stuff like that. And the people that are making the videos in response are people that are very knowledgeable. However, they don't actually weld anodized aluminum regularly. And just to give you an idea, when I say I weld it every day, this is all anodized aluminum. I build cobia towers, T-tops, all kinds of aluminum structures every single day. So what I'm gonna show a little bit of everything when it comes to welding this stuff. Not only the type of tungsten that I use, the way that I sharpen my tungsten, the consumables in general, the type of filler metals, the argon that we use. I'm gonna show you how I weld things, why I weld things the way that I do. We're in a new school now. We have newer technology. I've started on a few different machines. I started with a Lincoln Square Wave. It was a great machine. It worked out for the regular stuff that we were doing, and I just didn't have the money to upgrade my machinery at the time. And I moved over to a Miller Dynasty. I think that was one of the big transitions for me as far as finding a better machine, something that works. A little bit later on, moved up again to another Miller Dynasty, just a little bit larger, different platform, going with the water-cooled machine, which really helps out with this aluminum stuff and doing the AC welding that we do. Some people weld with their tungsten sharp. Some people say you need a ball at the end of it. This is how I like to run mine. Nothing too fancy. There's no big ball at the end. This has been used a little bit already. Nice tapered point, nothing too sharp, nothing too narrow. Number 10 gas cup just allows a little bit better gas flow. And when you're welding anodized aluminum, there's a lot of contamination in the material itself. So having a good shielding gas that really protects the weld helps out quite a bit. Even though it's coming from just a few different manufacturers, those manufacturers, when they anodize this stuff, it seems as though there's certain batches that, I don't know, maybe they leave it in there longer, or I don't know what happens, but basically that anodizing layer on that outside, that oxide layer, is much thicker or denser than some others. So you may set your machine up one time that works on that particular pipe, and you pull out another piece of pipe and you get all kinds of contamination, and you got to reset everything again. I guess it's just kind of the nature of the beast on that. Here's the filler metal that I like to use. I like to use 332nd when I can on most applications. It's 5356 filler metal, which is just a different type of compound than the 40 series. So there's a lot of different types of welding, especially for aluminum in general and anodized. A lot of people talk about bump welding and on-off welding. Some people use round tungsten. Some people put a ball at the end of the tungsten. Some people use sharp tungsten. I personally like sharp tungsten with the machines that I use, and I do not do the bump technique. I don't feel as though the weld quality is the same. When it comes to production and building these, you got to think about how long it takes to actually bump weld, spot weld, whatever you want to call it, all the way around this pipe, and then you want to go all the way around it again. I mean, that's a very slow process, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's a great weld either. I don't have time to bump weld and go back over everything twice. So I want to try to put down the best weld that I can the very first time. And for me, what I do is, of course, we're welding on AC, and we also use a pulse setting, 2 pulses a second. And you'll see that in our welding where you'll hear the buzzing coming on and off, and it doesn't taper off completely. It actually, it's enough to melt the puddle, do what it needs to do, backs back down, cools slightly, and then keep going with it. It prevents warping. A lot of people don't understand how easy it is for this metal to move and to warp when you're talking about long runs and you got connecting pieces coming into it. If you go back and smooth out a weld that you bump welded or whatever you did, you will see where it pulls that metal, and it really puts a lot of defects in your overall project, in your overall build. So I like to pulse weld, and I typically will not run an entire joint all at once. And you'll see with the anodized stuff, if it starts to get too hot, you'll start to see where it starts to crystallize the outside layer, and it's because it's getting too hot. So you really need to just take your time with it, pulse weld it all the way around, and that's going to give you your best results. Again, we're running everything on pulse. We're running a Dynasty 280. We're using 100% argon when we're welding this stuff. And here's kind of the results that we get with our pulse welding. It's not the fanciest, it's not necessarily the best out there, but you know, it's a very consistent dab, and it kind of allows for very little heat transfer. The way that you look at the heat transfer, you can see in the bends where it slightly like crystallizes the anodized layer on this aluminum. When you have too much heat, it'll do the same thing. Right in here, where it's regular anodized, you start to see it right in there, just a little bit too much heat. So a few things that I've noticed and recognized with a lot of these requests that people are having on these videos is you're talking to a lot of people that are knowledgeable in a lot of different things, but some of the requests are not necessarily what they're the most knowledgeable in. I weld aluminum every day for the past 5 years. We build custom T-tops, you know, cobia towers, tuna towers, fuel tanks, you know, any and every aluminum application you can think of. I need to weld, I need to get the jobs done, and we need to be proficient at what we're doing, put down quality welds, put down welds that is aesthetically pleasing to those that don't understand what welding is, as well as get the structures built and completed.